And that groovy surf music means it's time for Talk of the Bay right here on K-Squid 90.7 FM, your community radio station for the Monterey Bay. I'm Rachel Ann Goodman, and I'm joined by Charles Pasternak. He is the co-artistic executive director of Santa Cruz Shakespeare, going into many decades now as a wonderful arts organization right here in Santa Cruz. And you can bet we're going to find out what's going to be coming up in their 2023 season, as well as what it looks like in the theater world post-COVID. Can we say that? I sure hope so. Welcome, Charles. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Rachel.
So you're not completely new to this organization, but you're new to Santa Cruz. You said you just moved here 2.5 months ago.
Yes, 2.5 months ago. I was here as an actor with Shakespeare Santa Cruz in 2008 to 2013. And it changed my life. It was my first regional job. A lot of my professional connections came from here. And it sort of sent me on my journey across the country, working at a lot of beautiful theaters. And so this was an early home to me. So it feels like a homecoming to come back and get to the honor of leading this organization and carrying forward the torch that Mike Ryan has so brilliantly carried for the last 10 years. I mean, we have a theater because he kept one here, among so many other wonderful people. But it's an honor to be returning. And yeah, I signed a lease. I actually, nobody's putting me up now. Now I'm here. I'm a resident.
No more couch surfing for you.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Santa Cruz. It's great to have you. We have a thriving arts community here, and Santa Cruz Shakespeare has been part of that for many decades, going back all the way to Danny Shee running things, and then even before that, I remember when it was up at UC Santa Cruz, and there were some big challenges when it was so-called evicted. We really didn't know if it was going to survive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is Shakespeare's 43rd year in Santa Cruz, which is amazing. And yeah, Audrey Stanley founded it, and a long list of brilliant artists sort of led that company forward. Marco Baricelli was the one that hired me for the first time. And yeah, in 2013, I was here. I was playing Henry V when the university decided it didn't want Shakespeare Santa Cruz anymore. And so I sort of had a firsthand view of what that did to the community, how damaging that was, how upset they were. And Mike and others led the charge and raised the money. And he and Marco brought it back the next year, now as Santa Cruz Shakespeare. And as an independent organization. 2 years later, we moved to a new space in the Grove in De La Viega Park, where we've been for the last 8 years. And it's a beautiful space, and it's ours, and the company is ours. And so as it grows and blossoms and develops, no one can take that away from us, which is empowering and important. And I'm just glad to be a part of that legacy.
What a wonderful story, and one with a happy ongoing ending, which we don't always hear. We've had Jewel Theater close. I hear that Oregon Shakespeare is having trouble.
Yeah.
And that's really disheartening. I don't know what the reason or the answer for that is, but we all want to have arts in our lives, right? We need that. So I'm glad to hear that Santa Cruz Shakespeare is doing so well, and that has so much support.
Yeah, we are, and a discussion of Oregon and things like that, that might be a different show, but, it's awful to lose the Jewel. They've been such an incredible part of the artistic life of this community. And we have the advantage of being in an outdoor venue, and, and it's, the quality of our work has given us Again, Shakespeare's been here for 42 years. It's become a part of people's lives to go up to the Grove now, and to support it. So we're very lucky that in the wake of COVID, which has done such damage to so many arts organizations, that our community has come back out, and they've come back out strong. And again, it helps that we're outside, and it helps that it's a community event. You come up. You have a picnic overlooking the bay. You go into the theater where you can bring your wine and you can bring your snacks. And if you get groundling tickets, you can lay out a blanket. And you see this show under the stars among the community. So believe me, I believe passionately in the artistic quality of our work. But it's also a communal community event to come to that Grove. And it doesn't surprise me. I'm I'm deeply thankful for it, but it doesn't surprise me that people have the loyalty to this company that they do. We're offering something special.
I have happy memories of it. I even brought an Olali berry pie one time, and it spilled. And I remember I was wearing white, but it didn't matter. And I remember giving out slices to everyone near me.
Right.
Definitely, when you see everyone having so much fun before the play even starts, you realize that it's more of an event than simply going to the theater, as you mentioned.
I have to be careful, on a show day where I'll come early and walk around and meet the donors and introduce myself at the tables. And people are so generous. I get offered 5-6 glasses of wine within an hour. I have to be careful especially if I'm going on that night.
Then it'll become Shakepeare, Santa Cruz.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about the season coming up and what might distinguish it from previous years, because people always like new things. Although when you're presenting Shakespeare, that's always a challenge, isn't it? Because you're presenting similar plays over years after years. So let's talk about the 2 Shakespeare plays you've
Happily.
got.
Yeah, we're doing King Lear, starring Paul Whitworth, who is our sort of local celebrity guru. He ran the company. He ran Shakespeare Santa Cruz for a long time. I know he's he's a wonderful actor. He's beloved rightfully in the community. People have been able to see him at the Jewel the last few years, but it's been 20 years since he was on sort of the Shakespeare Santa Cruz Shakespeare stage. So it is a coup that we have gotten him to come back to play one of Shakespeare's greatest roles in King Lear. And it's an amazing ensemble. It's his greatest tragedy, and Paul's going to be a tour de force. It's going to be a magnificent production. It's directed by a longtime favorite, Paul Mullins. So we've got the Pauls, and so we're in very, very good hands. And we're returning to the Shakespeare comedy Taming of the Shrew, which is just, a comic masterpiece. And we have a brilliant director in Robin Rodriguez coming in to direct it. It's her first time here. Though she was at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for decades. Her husband, Michael Gagno, used to be a scenic designer here with Shakespeare Santa Cruz. So, we're calling it a season of legacy. Paul Whitworth is coming back. Mike Ryan and I are sharing the stage in Book of Will, playing the 2 actors that sort of in this kind of Mission Impossible journey to save Shakespeare's plays, until they put the folio together. And this is the 400th year since its first printing. 18 of those plays had never been printed. So we might be without plays like Antony and Cleopatra, Twelfth Night, As You Like It, if it hadn't been for these 2 men. And so Mike Ryan and I get to do that together. In his last year as artistic director and my first, there's sort of a passing of the torch. And Paul Whitworth is coming back. So, you're right. It is always a challenge. If you run a Shakespeare theater, you're doing a lot of the same shows over and over. And on the artistic side, I'd say he's the greatest playwright that ever lived. He deserves this kind of work because you'll never get to the bottom of him. There's always more to be revealed. But on the other side, part of that genius is its expansiveness. If you saw, I was in the Taming of the Shrew in 2013, the last year of Shakespeare Santa Cruz.
Who did you play?
I played the tailor. It was my rep with Henry V. So, in ensemble, I was playing a lead in one play and a very small supporting role in the other.
Well, that's as it should be, because playing 2 leads in 2 separate Shakespeare plays would be a lot to ask of anyone.
It can be a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the Shrew this year will be very different from the Shrew then. These plays have the bandwidth to take on such a range of interpretation.
I was going to mention that particular play because, as years go by and things happen in the public sphere, people look at these plays with a different lens. We're in the post-Brett Kavanaugh era, or maybe he's still here. There's all kinds of different views people take about men and women and roles.
Certainly.
And so this play, I bet, just lands on people's ears differently depending on what's going on in the present day.
Absolutely.
Can you comment on that a little bit?
Happily. The play, there are troubling elements in the play. And there is going to forever perhaps be debate about Kate's last speech. But in approaching this play, which I believe is a great play, a wildly funny comedy, we at Santa Cruz Shakespeare want to be direct and explicit in how we deal with these issues. It would be the same if we were doing The Merchant of Venice or any other play that brings up controversy in this time or has in others. And Robin, our director, played Kate at Oregon. And when we talked to her, she said, no, I really fell in love with this play after I played the part. And she believes, and Mike and I believe, that it really is a love story. And that it's not that it's not without troubling elements, but it's two damaged people that find each other in a world where neither of them live in a world of love. She's coming from a home in which, the first time we meet her, she is tying up her sister. She's, she's violent. And Petruchio comes from a world of war where all he comes in talking about is money. And then after they meet each other, everything changes. And again, it's not that the play doesn't come with issues to engage with honestly and directly, and we will. And I think our audiences will enjoy that aspect of it.
Tell me a little bit about how you do that. We're in this cancel culture world where on both sides people are banning books or saying you can't talk about that. It's too volatile. So how does a play, like, in keeping true to the lines that the people are speaking, how do you do that? It's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah, well, Shakespeare's not black and white. Shakespeare's greatness lies in his questions, lies in his ambiguities. And I think you're right. We live in a world of extremes in our politics and our opinions, and those are easy and sometimes safe places to jump to.
And the arts often end up in the crosshairs in these culture wars, don't they?
Absolutely. But if we're going to honestly deal with a playwright of this size, we have to honor his questions, and ambiguity is going to be part of that. One person, we're not going to solve, quote unquote, the problem of the play. We want to investigate it with as much artistry and honesty as we can in this moment. There are going to be people that perhaps walk out of the theater without their mind changed about the play. But I'll bet that many people will walk out of the theater with their minds changed if they're coming at it from a negative place.
And we should probably back up a little for people who have never seen the play or even read it.
Sure.
Just a really general outline of what we're talking about.
Sure.
Even the title suggests it, but they might not have read it.
Yeah, The Taming of the Shrew. And it's about Kate, who is very unhappy in her home, and her younger sister, Bianca. And Bianca has suitors, but her father won't let her marry until Kate marries. None of the men want to marry Kate, but Petruchio comes along, a warrior from another town, and he's just looking for the match that brings him the most money, and Kate's it. And the two of them have chemistry immediately. And Shakespeare has written language in which they share it, and it's fiery, and it's back and forth. And you can look up many wonderful, famous actors doing this on YouTube. I mean, you can see Raul Julia and Meryl Streep doing this in the park in New York. It's all free on YouTube. It's fabulous. And you can see the energy and the fire between them. And Petruchio, who speaks of money something like 60 times before he meets her, never speaks of it again. So it's a love story. What's controversial is that he marries her, he takes her away from the house, and the taming is the various means he takes to sort of break her spirit, or at least that's what it looks like. But what you see when they return is something more subtle than that. So there are people that don't like this play. But I think in an intuitive reading, there's more there. And I'm proud we're doing it. And I hope our audiences take something away from it.
And you look at much later, like modern, even sitcoms where you have the chemistry between the two characters as kind of a friendly battle.
Yeah.
Lucy and Ricky.
Yeah.
And you think of, the laughs come from the friction.
Yeah, absolutely. And the friction, it runs through our season. You see the dark side of it in King Lear. Lear has 3 daughters, right? 2 of them sort of end up being kind of the baddies in the play, but you look at them in the first scene and how he treats them and some of the language he uses towards them, and you go, man, if I grew up in that house with this father, I might act the same. It's ambiguous. And what ends up happening to Lear in the latter part of the play is tragic. But he brought on a great deal of it himself. And in the Book of Will, we watch family dynamics and company dynamics. I mean, the amount of sacrifice, the amount of work, the amount of risk that these two men took to save Shakespeare's work And Lauren Gunderson has written a wonderful, very contemporary, very funny script about this sort of mad dash adventure, because they were up against time, they were up against so many factors. But she also deals with ambiguity. There are sacrifices. There are choices where you work with an enemy, where, well, I won't go into all of it, but ambiguity and sacrifice are themes throughout our season. But they're going to be themes throughout any Shakespeare season where people take it seriously and dive in.
And that's the beauty of Shakespeare, I think, is that once you get past the difficulty of the language at times for some people, if you haven't read the synopsis at all, which I recommend, you can read into it all kinds of things from modern life, and that it holds up over the years. It really speaks to whatever is going on in the moment. It can be universal in human foibles and the way humans interact. And that's what I love about these festivals, is they celebrate these kind of timeless works that one man created in a brilliant, amazing way. If you just joined me, I'm here on Talk of the Bay. We're talking with Charles Pasternak. He is co-artistic director for the Santa Cruz Shakespeare in its 43rd season coming up this summer. So let's get into the details. When does it open? When do people get tickets? How much reservations can you have?
Yeah. I would encourage everyone to visit santacruzshakespeare.org. That's just the name of the company, santacruzshakespeare.org. You'll find information about all the plays there. The Book of Will and The Taming of the Shrew open in mid-July, and King Lear opens in late July. And then all three shows run in repertory through August. So because they're in rep, it's a changing schedule. So again, just santacruzshakespeare.org. And you can find the schedule there. And it's, the legacy of Shakespeare is 43 years, and we're so proud of that. Shakespeare Santa Cruz ran for the first sort of 33 of this. This is our 10th, this for our company, for Santa Cruz Shakespeare in this iteration. This is our 10th anniversary. And
congratulations.
And it's sort of a beautiful thing.
That's a big milestone.
Yeah.
And, we're 4 years old, and we went through something similar as a lot of us that are part of this organization, where a radio station went away, it went bankrupt. And, we had this huge loss, but then there was this phoenix moment like you guys had, and we actually looked to some of your story to give us hope and energy as we raised the money to come back on the air as this new organization with different people, similar core mission of building community. But I do relate to what Shakespeare, Santa Cruz Shakespeare went through, because suddenly you're without an arts organization. You have to act quickly. And I believe that the donors in this town who came forward for you are some of the same people who recognize that without the arts, without a station, without a collective gathering place to celebrate, we don't have as much fun. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. And this community of art supporters, of donors, seems to have stepped up again and again. They saved Santa Cruz Shakespeare 10 years ago. I'm so glad that they saved this radio station or whatever, or the transitory version of it. And, COVID has done such damage, and it is a great loss that the Jewel is closing. There are arts camps that haven't come back. There are smaller theaters that haven't come back. And part of our duty, Santa Cruz Shakespeare sees it as part of our mission now, that we need to step up and fill part of those gaps. We need to be there in the community. What we've been blessed with and tasked with in our success is the need to make sure that this community doesn't lose its theater arts. And that means the summer, but that means possibly beyond the summer. We need to step into the breach, as it were, and make sure that this community doesn't lose the arts it loves and needs. And of course, to do that, we need the continued support of it.
It does take money. That is the bottom line, and people have to make a living, and it's hard to live here. There's a number of things working uphill, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. I was watching a video of Humboldt, the town, Arcata in Humboldt County, and they have a kinetic sculpture race, and it's the most goofy, celebratory, and they were doing it live on the PBS station. They were doing commentary and running the whole thing. And I thought, now there's a bunch of people who actually love to have fun. and do something celebratory. And I think that spirit is very much alive in this town.
Yeah.
We might need to find it again. It can get very serious, and sometimes we need to be more whimsical. So I'm glad you have Taming of the Shrew and King Lear to balance each other out.
We do, and Book of Will is wildly funny. And I'll also say Lauren Gunderson is a Bay Area playwright. I'm not sure if it's true this year, but up until a few years ago, she was the most produced playwright in the country next to Shakespeare. And our Fringe show is also a Lauren Gunderson play, Exit Pursued by a Bear. It's another comedy, a dark comedy.
What's a Fringe show? I'm sorry to be so
ignorant.
Yeah,
please. No, and it's not ignorant. It's what we have called it. And that is our interns, so our intern company. For students currently pursuing theater degrees across the country, come to Santa Cruz, and they play supporting roles on the main stage season. It's not just ensemble; they do have roles, but supporting roles in the main stage season. And then the four of them put up their own show, and it's always a fabulous event. They work harder than anyone else at the festival, and people love to come out and support them. You'll see all the other actors of the company at one of the two performances. Everybody pours out. It's a fabulous time. So we have two Lauren Gunderson shows and these two Shakespeares. We have Shrew, which is a wild comedy. On the opposite side, we have Lear, which is the darkest of tragedies. But some of the greatest language ever written, starring Paul Whitworth. And then Mike and I are doing Book of Will, and then our incredible intern company is doing another Gunderson play in Exit Pursued by a Bear, directed by our own Rebecca Clark, who directed the wonderful intern show last year and has come on now full-time handling our education's programs. And it's a really... Our whole company, we start rehearsals this Tuesday. It's a pretty magnificent thing.
And where do you rehearse? Obviously not always available outside, right? Or do you rehearse outside?
We rehearse at Pacific Collegiate School on the west side, and we have a wonderful partnership with them. It's hard. We're rehearsing 4 shows at once, and so we can't just rent a single rehearsal room somewhere. We need a place. There are 3 rehearsal halls with backup workrooms for props, music, voice and text. Our costume shop is there. I mean, we need a ton of space. And so we go into PCS for 2 months. We did our sort of orientation day there this morning, actually. And our stage management team, our marvelous stage management team, are getting it ready for all the actors that are coming in next Tuesday. And so... I'll drop the website again, santacruzshakespeare.org. It's an incredible group of artists coming in now, and there's going to be an incredible season. So please go to santacruzshakespeare.org and check it out and get your tickets.
You've been listening to Charles Pasternak. Charles, thank you for coming, and congratulations on your new position as co-artistic director of Santa Cruz Shakespeare. Thanks for being here on Talk of the Bay.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Come back again.
I will, please.
Okay. This is KSQD Santa Cruz, 90.7 FM. I'm Rachel Ann Goodman, and here's a little information about a way you can support K-Squid.